It gives me great pleasure at this time to call upon Governor Mitt Romney to deliver the commencement address.
Thank you, President DeSalvo and Abbot Mark, trustees, faculty, honored guests, and weary parents. To the class of 2015, well done and congratulations. And to you parents, the years of investment and prayers have added up to this joyful achievement. Hopefully you're about to experience the new American dream, which is no longer owning your own home, it's getting your kids out of the home you own. Now, you just heard that I've been awarded an honorary degree. When I think of all the times I've been here at Saint Anselm for debates, forums, town meetings, and rallies, I might argue that this is an earned degree. But I'm afraid to get one of those, I would have had to have won. Now, 16 years of education has made your world a great deal bigger than the world of your childhood. It's a funny thing about little kids. They don't see much beyond what's right around them. They see their family, their school, maybe their city, but they just can't imagine distant places. Their vision, their world is like a small circle, bounded by their very limited experience. Your world now is breathtakingly large, almost without boundaries, with so much vastness and so many possible directions to take. Some of you may understandably feel somewhat anxious and uncertain. You may even be tempted during your life to look for a smaller, more comfortable world, one that's less complex and less demanding of you. That's not who you are, and that's not what St. Anselm has prepared you to do. To experience a fulfilling, purposeful life, one thing you're going to have to do is this: live a large life. Living large means embracing every fruitful dimension of life. It means continuing to expand your world and engaging in it as fully as you're able. Now, let me offer a few suggestions about how to do that. And the first involves friendship. I remember sitting in a business class, looking around the room and thinking to myself that I'd probably never see any of these guys again. All my attention was focused on what was being taught. But you know what? I've forgotten almost everything that was being taught. It's the classmates I remember, and it's those friends that I value most today. 40 years since my graduation, the guys in my 6-person study group continue to get together. We've congratulated one another on our highs and consoled one another on our lows. And believe it or not, your parents can become even closer friends than they are today. My friend Stuart Stevens decided to take his father to every single Ole Miss football game, home or away. What's unusual about that is that his father's 95 years old, and Stuart had moved away from home to go to college over 40 years ago. He lives in Vermont, his dad lives in North Carolina. So these father-son excursions would mean a lot of travel, a lot of time together, and long talks. And he'd dig deep into understanding his dad, his personality, his dreams, and his fears. And delving so far deep into his father's personhood, their friendship deepened, their relationship expanded in such interesting ways that a noted New York publisher, Knopf, has decided to publish a book about the experience this fall. Your life will be larger if you value and nourish friendships. Friendships from here at St. Anselm, from your home, and from the growing circle of your life. Now, for most of you, living life to the fullest will also mean marriage and children. And I don't expect everyone here to believe as I do that the Bible is the Word of God, or that it's inspired by God. If not, then at least you have to acknowledge that it represents the wisdom of the ages, written by extraordinary thinkers and philosophers. Either way, its counsel warrants attention. And in its opening pages, it says this. Adam gives this direction. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. The one flesh part we get. But the part about leaving mom and dad and getting married trips some people up. Now, I'm surely not going to tell you when it is you should tie the knot. You got parents who'll do that. But I will tell you that marriage has been the single most rewarding part of my life, by far. Marriage involves passion, conflict, emotion, fear, hope, compromise, understanding. In short, it is living large. And then there are children. Here the Bible also has advice. Children are a heritage of the Lord. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. Now, I'm not sure whether 5 sons qualifies as a full quiver for me, but I can affirm that they brought immeasurable happiness. And to my point, they engaged Ann and me in life in ways we couldn't have expected. On one occasion some years ago, Ann and I were invited to speak to the students at Harvard Business School about our choice of careers. I as a management consultant, and she is a full-time mom. Ann was reluctant, in part because the other 2 couples would also be speaking on that same topic, and both of the other women had chosen to become Wall Street bankers. In the class, the other couples went first, and then I followed, and Ann spoke last. And she explained that while she expected to have a career outside the home in the future, that she had chosen initially to be a full-time mom until her 5 kids were raised. She went on to explain that her job had required more of her than she had ever understood. She was psychologist, tutor, counselor, nurse, practitioner, nutritionist, budget director, and more. When she sat down, the class was silent for several seconds, and then they rose in standing ovation. Golda Meir, the former Prime Minister of Israel, was asked what was her greatest accomplishment. She didn't hesitate. Raising my daughter, she said. Marriage and children expand your world and engage you more fully in it. Now, there's a family burger joint I like whose founder put a little book out of homespun wisdom. He says to be happy requires 3 things. Number 1, someone to love. Number 2, something to look forward to. And number 3, something to do. In other words, work. You might be inclined to think that a Garden of Eden life would be preferable to working at a job, but you'd be wrong. I'm convinced that Adam and Eve would have been bored to tears if they'd stayed in that garden. No kids, no challenges, no job. I think that Adam being made to grow food by the sweat of his brow was a blessing, not a curse. Of course, there's a lot not to like about a job. The early alarm clock, the rush hour traffic, the stress. But work engages you in life. You come to know more people, to understand their motivations and their values, and to learn the intricacies of the enterprise that employs you. Don't waste time bemoaning your job. Don't skim by with the minimum of effort. Dive in. Get more from your job than a paycheck. Hard work is living large. Now, there's a part of life that you won't welcome. Bad things. Bad things that happen to you. If you're like I was, you imagine that bad things happen infrequently and that when they do, they happen to other people. I used to sit in church and look around the congregation. Everybody was smiling and happy. Life seemed to be nothing but puppies and pansies for everybody. And then my church asked me to serve as the congregation's pastor. And as pastor, I got to really know the people behind all those smiling faces. And to my surprise, many of them held what Ann and I call a bag of rocks behind their back. That bag of rocks could be a chronic illness, a battle with some kind of addiction, a child that couldn't keep up in school, unemployment, financial crises, withering loneliness, or a marriage on the rocks. To my surprise, almost every single family faced one kind of challenge or another. They all had a bag of rocks behind their backs. We will all hurt. Engaging in your world means accepting the hurt and confronting it, and then endeavoring to ascend above it so that you can keep pursuing a fulfilling and abundant life. During my campaign, I met Sam Schmidt in Las Vegas. In January of 2000, his Indianapolis racing car hit the wall. This father of 2 young children spent 5 months on a respirator and was rendered quadriplegic. He can move nothing below his neck. He and I spoke about his life today. His morning begins with a 2 to 3 hour routine for bladder, bowel, teeth, shower, and getting dressed. That'd be enough for a lot of people just to give up. But instead, Sam owns and manages an Indy racing car team, which, by the way, regularly dominates the Firestone Indy Lights, having won 60 races. And he himself has actually begun to drive again. He has a Corvette that's been fitted out with special controls. To accelerate, he blows into this little tube. And to brake, he sucks air out of the tube. To turn left or right, he looks carefully left or right. Accordingly, he has warned his racing buddies on the track, you got to keep the bikinis out of the grandstands. Sam's disability is still there. He endures it every day, every hour. But that has not kept him from fully engaging in life. Your career may be different than you expect. The biggest departure from my predicted career path came when I decided to run for political office. When I stepped into the auditorium to debate Ted Kennedy in Boston's historic Faneuil Hall, I turned to my wife, Ann, and said, "Sweetheart, in your wildest dreams, did you see me running for Senate?" She said, "Mitt, you weren't in my wildest dreams." Actually, she didn't say that. That was a joke I bought. But through all the occupations I've had, I've experienced successes and, as you know, failures. I'm asked what it felt like to lose to President Obama. Not as good as winning. Failures aren't fun, but they are inevitable. More importantly, failures don't define who you are. Some people measure their life by their secular successes. How high on the corporate ladder they got, how much money they made. Did they do better than their high school classmates? If that's the kind of success you're looking for, you're bound to be disappointed. Life has way too much chance and serendipity to be assured fame or fortune. More importantly, if your life is lived for those things, your life will be shallow and unfulfilling. The real wealth in life is in your friendships, your marriage, your children, what you've learned in your work, what you've overcome, your relationship with God, and in what you've contributed to others. That last dimension, contribution to others, is often the most overlooked and most undervalued. Tom Monahan's father died when Tom was just 4 years old. His mother entrusted him to a Catholic orphanage because she was unable to care for him and his brother. He went on to graduate from high school and then enrolled in the University of Michigan. The tuition proved to be beyond his reach, so to help meet costs, he bought and ran a pizza shop. He called his shops Domino's, and Tom became wealthy. He bought a Bugatti for $8.4 million. He bought the Detroit Tigers and won the World Series the next year. When I met Tom in 1998, I was surprised to find him seated in a closet-sized antechamber to what had been a luscious, spacious executive suite. He'd sold the Tigers and the Bugatti car. Tom had signed what was called the millionaire's vow of poverty. Accordingly, he would not drive a luxury car, fly in a private plane, or assume any of the trappings of wealth. That had included him trading his impressive office in for the small cubicle where I found him. He explained that in reading the Bible and the essays of C.S. Lewis, he'd been reminded of his upbringing in that Catholic orphanage. He wanted to change his life and devote his years to service. Shortly thereafter, on behalf of my firm, Bain Capital, I wrote a check to Tom to buy Domino's for over $1 billion. And then all but a small living stipend, he then turned around and donated to Catholic charities. He founded a college and named it not after himself, but after the Mother of God, Ave Maria University. I asked him just a few weeks ago what was the most rewarding part of his life. Was it winning the World Series, building Domino's from nothing, or driving that Bugatti? You can guess his answer. He said, "I've had enough toys to know how important they aren't." It was giving back through the university. Living life in fullness includes serving others and doing so without pride or personal gain. It'll fill your heart, expand your world. I've seen that kind of service in large and small ways in my own family. My sister's devoted the last 45 years of her life to the care of her Down syndrome son. My wife volunteered as a teacher for a class at at-risk girls. My mom was a frequent visitor to the homes of shut-ins and widows. My brother-in-law served in the Navy. My cousin Joan was foster mom to 57 kids. My dad and I both ran for political office. Now, wait a second. That last item, running for office, what has that got to do with service? Well, I know for some, politics is an occupation, and a fine one at that. But for Dad and me, it came at the time where our careers were over. I believed, and my dad believed, that we could really help people if we were elected. Most of you probably won't run for office, but the country needs all of you to serve. America faces daunting challenges: generational poverty, looming debt, a warming climate, particularly today, and a world that is increasingly dangerous and tumultuous. Washington appears inept, powerless, and without an effective strategy to overcome any of those. America needs your passion, your impatience with inaction, your participation in the political discourse. You have the opportunity to take part in one of America's greatest endeavors, New Hampshire's first in the nation presidential primary. Get involved with the candidate of your choice. Work a phone bank. March in a parade like my favorite, the 4th of July Wolfboro Parade. Go door to door. Attend a town meeting and ask tough questions. New Hampshire is the greatest presidential proving ground we have. Its enduring impact is only as certain as the next generation of citizens who choose to get involved. Engaging in your world includes engaging in citizenship. And so this cozy little world of your childhood is gone. You may be tempted to try to create for yourself that same kind of small and safe circle, concentrating on entertainment for yourself, doing the minimum at work, reading nothing because nothing's been assigned, avoiding meaningful commitments, complaining about the inevitable unfairnesses of life. Alternatively, you can live large by expanding your world, engaging in your world, constantly learning, overcoming reversals, nourishing friendships, engaging in citizenship, and serving others. That's the road less traveled, and it'll make all the difference. God bless you in your journey. Thank you.